Hudson County View live at Uncut. I'm your host, the guy that eats T-bone steaks, lifts barbell plates, and still has a demeanor that's sweeter than a chocolate cake, John Aritis. And of course, we're going to discuss the latest and greatest in Hudson County news. So a big topic this week over at Hudson County has been what's going on internationally, actually right in Cuba. You know, we've seen mass protests over there about people calling for basic human needs, rights, and really just freedom. So we heard from a number of elected officials this week, including U.S. Rep. Albio Series, West New York Mayor Gabriel Rodriguez, State Senators Brian Stack and Nick Sacco, respectively, along with many others. There was a rally in North Hudson that spanned between North Bergen and West New York that was over 1,000 people strong. So we're going to tell you everything that's happening locally in relation to this crisis in Cuba. We're also going to be talking about Bayonne, which, as I keep telling you every week, basically, you know, that seems to be the battleground here in Hudson County. Mayor Jimmy Davis is going to be seeking a third term in May, and it looks like Council President Sharon Nadrowski is in a position to challenge him if she so sees fit. She hasn't made any announcements yet, though. Of course, that's a ways off, but this week we heard more related to the former assistant business administrator. Another former employee says he should have been fired. We'll tell you why. We're also going to look at police body camera footage of a fatal June 7th incident where a police officer, actually two police officers, opened fire on a man on, I believe that was First Street, and he was killed. He was wielding a knife at the time, so we're going to talk about that. And I was actually really surprised to see just about an hour ago, maybe even a little less than that. Thank you to Hector Asagara for sending it my way. He tagged me in a tweet that my episode of Betraying the Badge, featuring the West New York Police Department corruption scandal back from 1998, actually has now been released on YouTube. So big thank you to everyone at Vice and everyone who was involved. And we're going to show you a really quick clip as we go to break. Racketeering, and getting convicted of racketeering is a big deal because the RICO claim says you're basically running, a mob activity.
Classic organized crime routine. The crew commits street-level crimes and has to kick money up to the capo of the crew. Was, in this case, the chief of police, Oriente, was basically like an organized crime don.
According to the Star Ledger of Newark, former Chief Alexander Oriente and 7 active cops, including the chief's own son, will plead guilty and cooperate in the state's largest police corruption case ever.
There were 12 officers arrested, including Chief Oriente. I think the reaction was shock and awe. This was definitely not the West New York that people thought they'd been a part of for their whole lives. Al Oriente Sr. and his son, Al Oriente Jr., both got cooperation agreements with the state in order to avoid sentences that could have gone 10 years and beyond.
Cutting-edge surgical care is right here in Secaucus.
Robotic surgery is safer.
Shorter hospital stays.
Smaller abdominal incisions, the size of an M&M. Here at Hudson Regional, we provide world-class robotic surgical care.
Good Friend Self-Storage in North Bergen, New Jersey, a climate-controlled facility equipped with state-of-the-art security, packing supplies, a Refer Friend program, and multiple loading docks convenient for commercial use. Located just off of Route 3 at 4301 Tunnelly Avenue, Route 1 and 9. Call 201-867-2444 or visit us on the web today. Good Friend Self-Storage. Let us be your good friend.
Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunnelly Avenue, Jersey City. Hudson County's only monument maker, serving all faiths and cemeteries. Design, studio, and large inventory on site. Cemetery inscriptions and custom orders welcome. Burns Brothers Memorials, Monuments, and Markers, 787 Tunnelly Avenue, just south of Secaucus Road. Craftsmanship that will last for all eternity. Burns Brothers, Jersey City, Albert H. Hopper, North Arlington. Visit us on the net.
At Hudson Regional Hospital, we promise to be prepared for your emergency.
We promise to provide world-class robotic surgical care.
We promise to treat you like family.
To provide accurate diagnostic care.
to provide the most innovative orthopedic care at your doorsteps.
We promise to treat your baby like our own.
To never stop investing in the best of spinal care.
To be with you every step of the way.
Here at Hudson Regional Hospital, we promise to take care of our community.
A brand new truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's tough enough to have best-in-class available payload and smart enough to know that a cab can also be an office. A truck equipped with best-in-class available towing that asks, why can't all that power more than just this truck? No, your brand new truck isn't just a brand new truck when it's the all-new F-150. Tough this smart can only be called F-150.
We are here today, simply put, to stand in solidarity with the thousands and thousands of Cubans that have protested peacefully, and not only obviously in the United States, but more importantly in Cuba. And they are protesting, simply put, for their safety, their health, and their quality of life. For 60 years, this community has combated against the regime who has oppressed them, and now with the last 15 months of the COVID pandemic, it is evident that this government has failed once again this beautiful community.
Cuban people are tired. They are tired of 60 years of abuse. 60 years of a dictatorship, because not even a communist, they're all dictators. There's no freedom. Recently there was a crackdown on the artists, and people just had enough. And they took to the streets to complain. The health system is in shambles. There's no COVID vaccine. There's no food. There's no freedom. There's no internet. There's no phone. And all there is abuse by a government that wants to stay in power. So we are here to support all those people that took to the streets and said enough is enough.
I'm here since 62, almost 60 years, and I've watched from family over there and talking to them and not visiting. I've never gone back. But I've lived practically in their everyday life the misery that they've lived with, the oppression and the lack of human rights. And it's time. How much time more do they need?
Congressman, I know you said just a moment ago that you don't think now is the time for military intervention, but do you think the U.S. government, the Biden administration, should be taking any sort of formal action at this time?
They're already taking it. They're supporting the island, and as things get worse, there'll be stronger support for the island. And I'm sure that with Menendez and the Cuban senators that we have there and the Congress people, humanitarian aid is first on the list. But humanitarian aid's got to go to the people, not to the government of Cuba. Right. We don't want the same thing that happened in Venezuela to happen here in Cuba.
Hudson County View live at Uncut. John Arhaitis. So obviously, just about every media outlet in the country, if not the world at this point, right, has talked about what's going on in Cuba. Again, desperate for basic human needs. You know, there's a food shortage. There have been widespread reports that COVID vaccines are extraordinarily low, not easily accessible, and other, clothing, shelter, their economy's tanking. So just, pretty close to the worst case scenario over there, unfortunately. And you saw at that press conference that Congressman Series, who is of course a Cuban American, was somebody who said that at this time he does not want to see U.S. military intervention. And excuse me, the reason he said that is because he didn't want to end up in a situation similar to what happened in Venezuela a couple years ago. They tried to send humanitarian aid, and that was intercepted, and there was definitely some violence attached to that. So with that said, at this rally in North Hudson, we heard from, again, as I said at the top of the program, state senators Brian Stack and Nick Sacco, among others. I mean, a lot of people that were marching called for U.S. military intervention. And the person that's been most adamant about that, I believe, in terms of Hudson electeds, has been Brian Stack. So we're going to hear from him. And when we come back, I'm going to be speaking with Hudson County Democratic Organization Chair Amy DeGise remotely. So stay tuned.
Hi, everyone. This is Brian Stack. I know I didn't do a video last week. I've been dealing with some personal issues with one of my nieces that has been sick. I hope everyone's doing well, and just hoping everyone is staying cool during this terrible heat that we're having. More importantly, what I'd like to speak about right now is the issues that are going on in Cuba. It's disgraceful to see how the Cuban people have been treated, not only today, but how they've been treated for the last 60 years. It's always been my belief from day one that we should have been in Cuba 60 years ago. To allow a dictatorship for 6 decades, 90 miles off the Florida Keys, is a disgrace. Now more than ever, we should have been in there years ago, but we can't go back on the past. Now more than ever, the United States needs to take military action to go in and liberate Cuba once and for all. We've done it in the 1990s in the Persian Gulf. We did it in Kuwait. We went in. Why don't we go to Cuba? We should be in there today, going in there and liberate and let the Cuban people set up their own democracy and elect their own president by a natural vote in a democracy. We need to get in there tomorrow. Cuba cannot do it on their own. I give the people tremendous credit of the consequences that they face being in those streets protesting. More than ever, the United States has to give support to the Cubans, not just lip service, not just use them during an election to talk about the issue, and then it gets forgotten again and again. We need to get in there, we need to liberate that country and make it into a true democracy and allow the Cuban people to elect a president, a Congress, whatever they want in a true democracy. And I ask everyone to please join. You don't need to be Cuban to be passionate about this issue. This is something I've been passionate about, living with the Cuban people in the building when I lived at 1104 Palisade Avenue. It's been something I've been very passionate about since I've been a teenager. We must support the Cubans now more than ever for a true democracy. Thank you, everyone.
Hudson County View live at Uncut, John Arhitis. And as promised this week, I am with HCDO Chair Amy DeGise. Madam Chair, thanks for committing to coming back after those difficulties outside of our control last week.
Yes, I'm so sorry. Thank you for having me.
No problem. No apologies necessary. So let's start with last time we crossed paths, just 8 days ago. You were at a fundraiser, a birthday party actually, but it was also a fundraiser for Chief Municipal Prosecutor Jake Hudson, who's running for Woody Council, obviously. And, you basically said the incumbent, James Solomon, has been a lot of talk and no action. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but why did you feel that speaks of the job that he's done in the past 3.5 years or so?
Because I've gotten to know Jake these past few, months a little bit better now that we're teamed up and moving forward on our platform and our initiatives under Team Fulop. And I see that, he's able to address problems in the area that I think are really clear to the people who live downtown, but he has measurable solutions. He has action items. He has legislation ready to go. And he's able to identify patterns that he's seen in his, work now as the prosecutor and leading quality of life initiatives. I'm saying you have so many more answers as an unelected official right now than you do as an elected one. So how is the representative down here able to agree and empathize with people when they have concerns, but none of these measurable solutions have even been proposed out of his camp? So I think that that's what the downtown community really needs. They need an actionable person that's going to, fight hard for them, but also compare their issues to the rest of Jersey City's issues as well.
So could you give me an example or two of where you think the incumbent has participated or engaged in pure lip service here?
Absolutely. Doing some of the walks for the primary with committee people, getting out the vote for our legislative districts. We had people identify some neighborhood concerns. So one apparent was near St. Mary's High School downtown, and it was about an abandoned building, which would be very odd to have a residence that's abandoned down there, being that it's such a lucrative area to live in. The residents told us it's been abandoned for a few years now. It's, has loiterers and people coming in and out. And we've asked if they contacted their local councilman, which would be James. And they said, yeah, absolutely. And he's, been on board. He's really supportive of us, but nothing has happened yet. That night, we text Jake and we said, listen, there's an issue, with a vacant building causing some, seedy activity. Do you think you can address it? That was a Monday. By Thursday, the homeowner was already addressed, issued fines, and there were tickets on the, on the vacant building and it was boarded up. The next week, there were construction workers there addressing it. And we went back to those residents and we just wanted them to know who we went through, why we did this, the whole process. We showed them everything that was signed by the courts. It went any way that the constituent go in. Jake didn't jump the line by any sort. And we thought, why didn't your councilman do this? He yesed you to death and, he agreed that this was an issue. It aggravated him as well. But we asked, what do you know of his actions? What did he do? How did he follow up? They didn't know. So the fact that we were able to address this issue in a matter of days, and by the next week, you had construction workers there cleaning things up, dealing with fines and tickets now, putting them on notice and putting other homeowners in that area that aren't living in those homes and just renting them on notice that we are going to watch, especially quality of life issues and the availability of good, affordable housing. So that was one of the items that we saw quite recently.
All right, very good. Well, look, I don't want to harp on this too long, but I would add, he has led on some issues like Airbnb reform, the Civilian Complaint Review Board. But look, you made your point clear why I think you want to see a change in Ward E. So with that, let's talk a little bit about some Democratic committee issues. So I know you were present for the Jersey City Democratic Organization reorg, I guess it was already about a month ago, and a pretty uneventful meeting for the most part, but there were some calls from progressives for some amendments. Those did get a vote. So could you just tell us what happened from your perspective being there in person?
So a reorganization meeting will happen to certify all of the new committee people, to introduce them to the current bylaws and to the process. And then you also restructure the executive board. Chairwoman Barbara Stamato was reappointed as chair, and she has an amazing executive team. During that meeting, there comes a point where you agree to the bylaws and the constitution of the organization of the Jersey City Democratic Committee. And I think people were under the impression that that was a time that you can introduce new bylaws, but you actually have to advertise that to the public. So I gave the example, let's say at the next committee meeting, I want to change the bylaws and everybody has to pay $100 in dues. And that vote passes. But you were a committee person who couldn't make it and you stayed home and you see this now that you have a dues to pay and you say, well, this wasn't advertised. You didn't let me know that this was going to be voted on. So any new amendment prior to voting on an amendment or a bylaw change, anything that's going to affect the Constitution that you agree upon at this reorg, you have to alert the public, the other committee people, I should say. It goes through a review committee. So they check the current bylaw, they compare it to the old bylaw, the new bylaw change. You do any type of informational activities with the rest of the committee people to make sure that they understand what the change is. And then you have to publicly announce that you're going to have this meeting strictly for bylaw changes, advertise that out. I believe you need to get the bylaw in 30 days in advance, and then you have to alert the membership a week in advance. And then they get to go vote on that. So I know that there was a little bit of a confusion there, but they're not able to introduce bylaws without alerting all of the membership prior. And really, they should have spoken with the chairwoman and allowed her to know that she's been so amendable and kind with everyone and all of their requests. She moves her meetings all around Jersey City to make sure that all of our committee people feel like they can get to meetings easily. She wouldn't have ignored a request like that. So I felt like they kind of skipped her and went right to the committee people and were probably upset that it didn't go to a vote. And I can understand that. But there is a process and a protocol, and also respect for the chairwoman and the job that she has to do in maintaining order, making sure you have a quorum at these meetings, that when bylaws are voted on, that you have enough people there, and that all of the information is given out to people in a way that they feel like they can absorb it, take it in, ask questions, and then go to the meeting and talk about it. You can't prompt it on someone 5 minutes before the meeting starts.
Right. All right. Well, thanks for that explanation. So, look, I think we've seen the reorgs in Jersey City, Bayonne, I believe even Cardi. I mean, not that there was any real shakeups there. But so when is the HCDO doing the reorg?
So the HCDO wanted to give the municipalities a chance to reorganize. Right after the primary, the governor issued another statement. If you remember last year, they had held off on them. The governor had the executive order that we could delay committee reorganizations. This primary happens and the governor then extends it because of the vote by mail and clarifying votes, certifying everyone. And we wanted to give the municipalities who had all delayed their reorganizations last year an opportunity to reorganize themselves, get themselves pat, and then come to us. So we will be slightly delayed on that, but we need to have a reorganization and also some bylaw updates of our own. And we want to do it in a way that's safe and a way that everyone can get to our committee meetings. Virtual is not a great option for us with, over 900 people wanting to come to these things. And obviously with still some of the COVID regulations of not having that many people in a room and masks requirements and social distancing. So we want to wait till we have the all clear that we can have everyone in this room and not just be in and out, have a dynamic meeting, talk about some mission statements for upcoming caucuses or committees that our committee people can work on, as well as the governor's reelection and our November general election. So as soon as that is worked out, we will alert the public.
All right, so safe to say you plan on doing this sooner than later. And the second part, you plan on being the chair again, or at least running for chair again?
I do, yes, I do. I really do. And speaking with the other municipal chairs and the other elected officials, everyone seems to be good with that, which I'm really happy that they're proud of this job that's being done and that everyone feels a part of this team. So going forward, it'll stay the same with myself as the chairwoman, unless someone would like to come and challenge.
Very good. Now, of course, as I'm sure everyone watching who will watch knows, you're running for council at large as well on Team Fulop. So you're running with two incumbents. The third is council at large Rolando Lavarro. He hasn't said what he plans on doing in the fall yet. But whether you challenge him or not, why do you think you would be a good addition to this team, to this council? And why do you think you would be a good person to succeed him if that's what the will of the people is come November 2nd?
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Lifelong resident of Jersey City. Being from Jersey City is one of the my most proud characteristic of myself is being from here. And I love this city so much. I grew up in a home that being an advocate, civic engagement was very important. Not just my dad, but my Aunt Lois. She was the first Democratic woman to serve on the city council. She liberated the bars, Lois Shaw. So this was always around my life. I was always thinking about policies and better ways to treat my hometown. And I've seen great changes throughout the entire city. I always felt I've had an opinion on, things that we could have done better, things that were going great, but, the public wasn't aware of. And I'd really like to, instead of offering my 2 cents from the sidelines, be at that legislative table and sit down with all of the dynamic, diverse groups throughout the city and address concerns that not only I have, but I feel are prevalent throughout Jersey City. So that's, why at large makes sense, because that is citywide. And, of all of our wards, they're their own little cities in some ways. They all have different concerns, but there also are some patterns of common concerns that I'd like to see addressed, and add a Jersey City lens when planning policy. There are things that may look good on paper, that they're backed by research as proven to help urban towns exceed and progress. But Jersey City has its own culture. And I feel like I can look at that data, that research, and what might work here, and add a Jersey City twist to it. As a lifelong resident, some of us feel like the affordable housing or moving around the city, or just, our success here, it's not always a part of our everyday life like it was when we were younger. And we'd like to be a part of that.
Very good. And just one more quickly. So you're well aware that there's a pending lawsuit, and there's a rise from the progressive wing of the party calling for abolition of the party line. So what do you think about that prospect and that pending litigation?
I'm not positive how far it will go. It's a statewide issue, so it'd be a major change for us here. I've been an advocate for the line, and I think if you look at the primary results, all right, so each of our legislative districts had an assemblyman and assemblywoman run. In those 3 districts, all of those 2 candidates had different vote totals. So it wasn't, even numbers. People are not coming into the polling place or doing their mail-in ballot not knowledgeable of who they're voting for. They don't look at a line and just tap one thing and go all the way down. People are really cognizant of who they're voting for, and they like to make a statement if they're going to bullet vote and vote for one person and not their running mate, so to say. And you could see that in the voter totals. You could see that with some of the committee races that we had, that the Hudson County line won everything except for the committee seat. Our voters are engaged, informed, and educated, and they understand the ballot. Could the ballot be improved? I'm sure there's a dozen ways that we can improve upon people's understanding of the ballot. But in my mind, having an organizational line shows a shared platform from your local reps all the way to your federal reps. And it shows the work and coordination that goes into building a platform and reaching consensus and meaningful compromise, which is a very difficult thing to do. And it takes a lot of legwork to do that. And we're really proud of that work. So we decide to run together. And those who are critical of the line, if if they were to come up with a way to run their own line, they may be able to see how you can coordinate volunteers, fundraising events, networking, and just kind of sharing among the resources that are out there, and all collectively engage and inform the voters and constituents, because that's so important. And voter turnout is, the utmost importance and a huge priority for voting. And I don't think having the line or not having the line is going to drastically change who's getting elected.
Madam Chair, thanks so much for joining me today. We will chat soon. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. We're not done yet. We are still going to talk Bayonne. And actually, we're going to show that police body camera footage before we part ways today. There is a little profanity, and yes, there is a shooting, so viewer discretion is advised. We're going to go to that, and then we'll be right back.
Oh! Why not? I don't want to. Why not? Yo! Come up here. I'm not going to walk there.
Responding with a shooting about the vehicle going to West First down the third floor in the hallway.
South back of all four for them. Sick of this crap. I'm tired too, man. Yeah, I wake up early too, but I just. No. I woke up I woke up 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. 4:30 in the morning. I woke up today. I'm in this same neighborhood. Okay. Fireworks. I'm sick of it. I'm sorry to hear that, man. But you know. Get the out. No! Okay, I'll get up when you put the knife down. How about that one? Put the knife down, I'm not letting go. Okay, no, I just put on the floor, that's all. No, you're going to shoot me. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Shoot. No, I'm not going to do it. Shots fired! Shots fired! Fired!
Oh yeah, shots fired. West First, third floor. West First, shots fired, third floor.
Come on, let's go. Where's the knife? Okay, where is it? What's the wounds? Where's the wounds at? Stomach, arm. Alright, south back up. We're attempting first aid. Come on, hold on.
Only victim is the actor. All officers are taken.
Back up. South back up. We gotta step up the ambulance.
Hudson County View, live at Uncut, John R. Hydus. So, there's just been so much going on in Bayonne. So just quick note on that police case, which is being investigated by the New Jersey Attorney General's office. They are the ones who released the footage. Several media outlets, including Hudson County View, did an Open Public Records Act request, and they decided to do a mass release. They are still investigating. They've identified the 2 police officers involved, and nobody has been charged at this time. Very quickly, the other matter that I wanted to talk about, following up on last week with former Bayonne Assistant Business Administrator Mark Bonomo, we got the separation agreement, and we talked to a former employee who said that he screamed at her and then got a verbal reprimand. Unfortunately, we are out of time, so you're going to have to read that at HudsonCountyView.com. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk soon.
Carpets, 3408 Kennedy Boulevard in the Jersey City Heights, your one-stop store for residential and commercial floor treatments, carpeting, linoleum, tiles, laminates, hardwood floors, area rugs, remnants, all major brands, all in stock. Free estimates, same-day installation. Consumer Carpets, it's savings, selection, installation. Credit cards and debit cards accepted. Financing available. Consumer Carpets, price to fit your budget, installation to fit your schedule. On the net at consumercarpets.com. Consumer Carpets, Jersey City, 201-792-2712.
Newport, the luxury waterfront community on the Hudson River, offers a quality of life you deserve in 10 high-rise rental towers with amenities such as the on-site Newport Path subway, light rail and ferry service, Newport Town Square, 3 playgrounds, dog run, upscale restaurants, retail giants like Sears, JCPenney, Macy's, and Target. Morton Williams Supermarket is just outside your front door. A health and fitness club, spa, skating rink, and medical facilities are also on site. NewportNJ.com. Enjoy the New York skyline from Newport Town Square. Manhattan is just one path stop away or quick ride through the Holland Tunnel. Nursery and private elementary schools all on site. 12-screen movie theater at the Newport Center Mall. Want to visit Newport? Stay at the Westin or Marriott Hotel. Go to NewportNJ.com for details. Newport has luxurious towers, great restaurants, shopping, New York skyline views, schools, playgrounds, a marina and yacht club, gym, spa, fine wine, fine living. It's incredible. It's you. NewportNJ.com. Newport. Live like you want.
Pinto Properties, Jersey City. Shaping the workplace with state-of-the-art office spaces that address your company desires. Building residences that define your home environment. Adjacent to all modes of transportation with on-site parking available. The right address, the right lease. Call 201-521-9000 or visit online at panapintoproperties.com. Panapinto Properties, building Jersey City for everyone.